Hi, it's Adrian Murphy here with Laura Davidson joining me today on the Human First podcast. Laura, welcome.
Thank you. Delighted to be here.
Thank you. It's great to have you. So you are the co-owner of Tag Digital.
That's right.
In Glasgow. Do you want to tell us a wee bit about that, please?
Sure. So Tag Digital, we are a paid media agency that supports event organisers all over the world. So we run about 2,000 event marketing campaigns a year.
Wow.
Across 50 different countries. And lots of them are for huge events no one's ever heard of, big security events in Dubai. But the most recognisable are maybe TED, who we work with, who are really inspirational. And The Economist are a bit more well known. So we just had our 13th birthday on Saturday there. So
Well done.
Thank
Congratulations. And that's you and your husband, is that right?
Yeah.
Craig.
My now husband. So we started in 2011, so then boyfriend, pre 3 children, which we now have. And we started the business as really just, I was probably coming to the end of my role in a startup, or the startup was running out of money, and Craig was kind of finishing his graduate placement. And his stepdad had always had businesses, and kind of he'd witnessed that growing up, and was really inspired by that. And we thought, like, now's the time to, try and start something. We were 24, very fresh faced, didn't have a clue what we were doing, but just really thought, well, what's the worst that could happen?
It's a good attitude to have. Have a crack at it. Why not?
Yeah, we did, and we thought, well, what do we need to do? We knew that digital was like a huge thing, and I'd come from kind of video startup background. Craig was within marketing, and we knew that like local businesses just didn't have a clue, didn't have websites, didn't have social media, didn't have e-commerce, anything like that, and we kind of knew that space. So we thought we'd start by offering those services to local businesses, and it really was a case of going and knocking on like the door of the dentist, the door of the local art gallery. And I had no issue with being told no a million times. I was very comfortable with that. Like, we got flyers printed and kind of off we went. And then, we got our first client was an art gallery in Mulgai, and they said they would pay us £199 for social media training. And I was absolutely buzzing. Like, I couldn't believe somebody had agreed to pay us money to do something. And then I thought, well, I better go and build some social media training. And I did, and we did. And then the business kind of grew from there. And maybe around, when would that have been? Like 2012, 2013. So quite soon, actually. It's felt like a long time, but quite quickly we decided, let's move to London and start to see if we could maybe get some bigger clients. And we started working with what was then UBM, and we were doing digital paid campaigns for them, and it was going well, and they were really happy. And then they referred us to another kind of enterprise client. And then once we had them, we were also in an Institute of Directors kind of mentorship program.
Right. Okay.
And our mentor was saying, you should really go after a niche. Like, you will grow if you can figure out a niche. Whereas at that stage we were pretty naive, and we're like, no, we could have anyone, or we could be all things to all people, which now I know we would never have succeeded. But we decided to go after events as a niche, and that's when the business probably started to really take off.
So when was that?
So that would have been, I think that was maybe 2012. We stayed in London, and so UBM became Informa. And what we found is these big enterprise clients, they have maybe, they're one company, but there's 300, 500, 600 brands. So quite quickly word started spreading, and we picked up more and more brands. And then maybe around 2016, we got our first international campaign. So we were referred to another branch of the company, which was in Dubai, and then quite quickly another one that was in New York. And we were like, oh, okay, so we could export this like quite easily. So we were definitely client-led going into international markets, but once we'd focused on a niche in terms of sector and in terms of service, the only way to grow was internationally, and we really went after that. And now we've probably 70% of our revenues are international. Yeah.
And was that around the time that you were, I believe, you were nominated, or you're finalists in the EY Entrepreneur of the Year, Young Entrepreneur of the Year?
Yes, we were. Now let me think when that was. That came a wee bit later, actually.
Yeah.
I want to say that was maybe 22.
Right, okay.
We won a Barclays International Expansion Award quite quickly after we started exporting. So we were relatively small to be exporting, but really we were able to grow the business like 100%, 60% year on year when we started doing that. And then it was great, to be part of the EY Awards. It was a really good community to be part of. And I think just when you lift your head up and see what others are doing around you, it's hugely inspirational. And that group, but probably more so for me, being part of Scale Up Scotland, has really enabled like a growth mindset and healthy competition and a really supportive community, as well as I'm in Vistage, which has been amazing from a kind of leadership development point of view, I would say. Yeah,
because it is, as you know, although you've got you and your husband, you've also got 3 children as well, and you run a business together, but it can still be lonely. There's certain things that you want to talk about that maybe you might want to talk to somebody else about rather than
definitely.
Home over 3 children's dinners.
Yeah, that's it. I think, Craig and I talk about work a lot. We try to, not so much at the weekend. During the week, I would say, like, we're really pretty focused that we would, I always leave work by about 4:30 because I want to get home and I want to have dinner and bath and put the kids to bed and then kind of start working again in the evening. So that works for us as a family, and we're quite strict on what all those boundaries look like, and that seems to work. And we'll talk about work during the week, but then the weekend we try not to. So it is great to have that perspective, I think, from some outside groups. And no matter what the business is, I think a lot of businesses share really similar challenges. They just might have a few more zeros after them. And having a really supportive group through Vistage and Scale Up Scotland has just really transformed my perspective, because you just see things from your own kind of biased point of view, no matter how hard you try and think broader. So getting that diversity of thought really, really helps me.
That's really good. It's a good point. You can't. I've always found over the years you can't have too much help. And just listening to people who've been there and done it, just getting different perspectives is so important.
Oh, it is. And you don't always see it at the time, but then when you look back, you really, like, you'll call on something, and I think you can be given advice earlier, maybe in a challenging situation that you maybe you're not quite ready to hear. And then 6 months later, you're like, that was totally right.
Quite often you know the answer to the problem, but maybe you don't want to make the decision.
You absolutely do. And in Vistage, we do this like issue processing, and it's, we really get into issues and everybody offers their perspective, and it's a really, really good process. But like 9 times out of 10, the person knows what they need to do before they've started. They just need to kind of arrive at that decision.
That's exactly right.
You absolutely know.
So as you and Craig set out on this journey, which is quite brave at the outset, and then obviously being partners and then getting married and everything, how did you have any kind of great plan in place or great ambition, or did you have an idea of what you were trying to do, where you were trying to go at that point?
I think in the early days we were just so excited to go and do something for ourselves. So I looked back recently at a business plan we did, and it's hilarious what we thought we could achieve
you care to share that
in a year. I mean, I should actually, because I think it would be very reassuring for people. But in the early days, like, I think you really overestimate what you do in the short term, and actually long term you can do much more than you thought. But no, I think early stage it was survival 100%. So we would be like, great, right, do a job, get £500, do another job, get £1,000, right, great, we can pay the bills. And it was quite like that. But then maybe after 2 years we started to earn more money from the business, and we're like, okay, that's stabilized a little bit. And then after that, we would just kind of say, right, let's try and double next year. Mm-hmm. And that was easier when you were doing like 200, 400, 600,000, whatever it is. But then once we got big, and we kept trying to do that until we got bigger, and then you reached a point that you say, okay, we're not going to do like another, we're at about 10 million now, we won't do another 10 million next year, but we will still have really, really ambitious goals. And if we fall a bit short of them, that's okay. But we also have had to mature our approach, because like we've brought in like a serious proper finance team now, like proper grown-ups in the business. So they're not like just put a budget of double and see if we hit it. That doesn't really fly anymore. So, but we still have that ambition. But on paper, we maybe put something a little more conservative.
Yes, make it a bit challenge for the finance team.
Yeah, we definitely. But it's great because they want us to hit the budget, and we do as well. But we have a finance team that are very entrepreneurial in their approach as well. Yeah. But we'll make sure that we've stress tested things that we think are a good idea before we put it in black and white.
So with all of that, which is a lot, and it sounds like you've been pretty busy over the last 13 years. How do you manage then the other side of life? Because we all have our interests and our passions, and then you've got children and other family and all that stuff as well. How do you manage that yourself?
Family is very, very important to me. So like being with my kids, being present with my kids is hugely important. And also like I'm one of 3 girls, and my mum and dad, like we're separated now, but we're all really, really close as a family, and same with Craig's family. So we do spend a lot of time with family, and I think that like sense of community really has given me a solid foundation to go and do some of the business stuff, especially support from like my mum, Craig's mum, as the business has grown. So I think I'm very disciplined about what I do with my time, which has made me feel like I've got a lot of freedom in it. So, in terms of being with the kids, finishing work early, no work at the weekend, but I'm quite happy to work as late as I need to finish what I need. And I will do that when they're in bed, and then Craig and I will have time that we say, okay, that's time for us with no work. So I'm like quite organised that way. Same with like fitness and running. I'm like really enjoy running, and we both trained for a marathon last year, which was hard to fit into family life. I don't think we'll do that again. But again, we just had to be really regimented on the time. So I think being really focused on the time, and like when I'm home, I'll be like, okay, I'm not going to go on my phone in front of the kids. I don't want them to see that. And stressed and looking at your phone all the time, like, because my phone is a black hole of 5 million Slack messages. So as soon as you open it, you're gone. So I think just things like that. And I've got my own rules that I just will not kind of give into really. In the morning I don't look at my phone because I just want a clear head to have breakfast and stuff with the kids. So simple stuff, but I've got a lot of rules.
I think that, but discipline is a big part of it, even if it doesn't look necessarily particularly disciplined. You're kind of working through your own process in your head. And we'll say no to a lot of things as well. So I get invited to like loads of really nice parties and charity things, but my evenings are important, and it takes a lot for me to go to an evening event or get on a plane for travel. Like it has to be really, really important to go. So I think all of those things I'm quite strict on. And also I'd say we spend all of our personal money on help to enable us to just enjoy family time or do work. So we, spend money on cleaning or gardening or childcare, all of these things. Like we don't do loads of extravagant stuff. I'm like, where's our money go? But it just goes on like help to like run the family. So I'm not cleaning till 10 o'clock, which I'm really, really lucky to be able to do. Yes, absolutely. But it's where's your time best spent, and that's probably a wise investment if you look at what you've done with the business. That time, something you can't get back. So that's a really interesting way to look at it, because a lot of people would start to get guilt and stuff about that. Being
I totally own it as well, and I think it's like it takes a village. So like we've got my aunt and uncle round the corner, and even like last night my son had his little drama show up at the village hall, and someone comes and watches the other two for an hour. So like using that community around us who are very involved in our life enables us to do things. So I'm definitely not doing all of it myself. I do my bit well, and then if there's other people to help, I'm always happy to take the help.
Yeah.
And I'll help other people as well, I should say.
Yes, of course. 'Cause you've got your sisters as well.
I do, and I'm very, very close to both of my sisters, who are both successful entrepreneurs in their own right, which I think is probably quite unusual. My sister Fiona has a brilliant aesthetics business which is growing throughout the UK, and my sister Hazel was a professional dancer and now has a dance school again that she's expanding, which is probably quite unique.
Are you competitive at all?
Not in business, I think, and we do really different things. We're competitive maybe like when my whole family gets together with all my cousins, like in games and things like that. I think we're very competitive. But
Trivial Pursuits.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I think everybody likes to compete there, but I think we've all really helped each other with the business side of things. And as they've grown, and like if someone's done something else, then we're really happy to share, and you will get brutal honesty, you know, and I think you need that, and you need people around you who are prepared to give you that feedback. So yeah, I think that's encouraged each of us, I would say, to do our own thing.
And how do you start to think about, you know, obviously we've talked about where you've come from, and obviously arrived in this wonderful position that you're in now. So, and you know, where do you see yourself in 10 years' time? You know, what are you doing? Who are you with? Where are you?
Yeah, the next 10 years. So I'm 37 just now. So when I'm 47, I hope to be still spending a lot of time with my family and with the kids, and that the kids still actually want to hang out with us, which I think is really testament that they are not buried in devices. I think is something that I'm going to work hard on. And I think, you know, I want to see the business continue to grow, and we have an ambition to get to 100 million in turnover, and we'll do that in different ways. So whether we, you know, acquire other businesses, whether we become part of a larger organisation, I think we're still figuring some of that out, but I'm really motivated by growth and building something bigger and creating something out of nothing, and getting into new markets. So I think we'll still remain within technology, and I think the business will still grow. I think the shape of what the structure might change a little bit.
And how does that change your life then, and what you might be doing, and you and Craig might be doing, or Craig and the kids? I still
see us being involved in businesses, you know, throughout the remainder of our career. So I've got a whole ton of ideas of businesses that I would love to start, but definitely don't have capacity for them right now. But what's frustrating is sometimes then I see someone else doing it. I think that's the universe, like being like, come on, I told you had the idea, you never did anything.
What would be your number one?
So the thing I really wanted to do was to build a robot manicure machine. So I if I go and get my nails done, it's like maybe can be like 2 hours or something like that, and I love having it done, but I'm always fidgeting, like I've got a million things to be doing, and I
can't go on Slack while you're getting your nails done. Can't go on that,
and it's just like it's such a time drain. But anyway, so and I'm talking like 10-15 years doing that. And what I thought would be amazing is if you had like a Mick wash. Remember those like hand washes at McDonald's, and you put your hands in, and they do a lovely manicure with gel, and it's done in 15 minutes. I thought I'd pay like a lot of money for that to get the time back.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was my idea, which probably the girl who does my nails would be very happy to hear. But
and somebody's just gone and started
someone's
it.
Done it. Someone's done it. They've got a partnership with Target, so I'm like, I'll have to move on to the next one. So yeah, I've got lots I'd like to do. So yeah, and it's been amazing fun building the team, building technology, and we've learned so much. Like we've done a lot of good stuff in the last 13 years, but if we were to start over again, we could probably shortcut like the first 5 or 6, I would imagine.
It's always the way, yes, as you go through your career and you get more experience, you do realise that there's quite a lot of wasted time in there, but then you wouldn't have learned what you learned, that's the thing.
You only learn by doing, you know, there is no shortcut to that, and I think that's true of like, you know, the way that you're building your confidence and experience. And I see young people coming into our team, and you know, it's maybe like you're going on a call with a client who's not very happy, or you've got to, you know, deal with something, you're giving someone challenging feedback, whatever it is, it's so hard, and you kind of forget how hard it is when you've maybe done it a few times. And all of these things I think are just, you only learn by doing and getting more experience and more confidence.
How do you, I mean, you've got 40 odd employees now, and a relatively young team.
Yeah.
How do you find that these days?
Yeah, so our team's 45 people across Manila, the UK and the US, and definitely multi-generational team, which there is so much to learn. And I think this is nothing new. Like I saw a quote the other day, talking about the young generation and what do they know? And you think it's something that's new, and it was Aristotle that wrote it. So you think, right, it's nothing actually new here that we need to be alarmed about. And it's really just taking the time to understand, what are people motivated by? What do they want from their careers? And yeah, I mean, we have a lot of our team are maybe kind of early 20s. I've no idea the memes and emojis that they use. They make no sense to me, but they keep me entertained. And I think, yeah, it's just a different approach to work. And I think work has changed so much, and maybe work needs to be a lot more to people than maybe it once did. So yeah, we maybe don't have the same community around us, and there's so much that work has to be, and that's something that we are learning. So across well-being, across social, I see work is a bigger thing to our team. It serves more purposes. So we're trying to figure where is that line, and how much should we be doing, and how much are people taking accountability for themselves.
Yeah, I think it's something we hear a lot is people seem to want to be a part of something, something meaningful, something that they can say, yeah, I helped build that, or whatever it happened to be, rather than just getting a job that pays the most money that flogs you to death. And it doesn't seem to be that's a priority now.
It's definitely not. And I think that sense of belonging in the workplace is more important than ever. And especially, we've had people, maybe we're doing fully remote jobs, and then they just didn't have that sense of belonging. And that's what I see. A lot of our team are really great friends. They go on holiday together. They're doing running clubs together. They're they've got that kind of safety from the belonging. So I think it helps work become more rather than quite transactional, which I think it becomes if you're fully remote. And the other bit of that is, I think you can build a bit of a narrative in your head when you don't have others around you, that you think situations are bigger. So we're trying to learn all of that and make sure that people have got that kind of psychological safety. And I think seeing each other and being together really helps navigate a lot of that.
I take it, so are you largely office-based? Obviously they're spread around the place. But
our UK team are in the office a couple of days a week, and we make sure that there's reasons to do that. So they are doing team meetings, we do learning sessions. So a Friday is actually a busy day for our team, in that I know that's not the case across a lot of businesses. We do learning sessions, we do drinks, we've got our summer party. A lot of that stuff happens on a Friday, and we're not telling people to be in, but they will come in to do those kind of shared moments, which I think is a lovely thing to see.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I completely agree. I think we're social animals.
We
need that interaction, don't we?
We absolutely need human connection. And I think during COVID we all got a bit excited, oh, look at us, we're so productive. And then actually over time we're no, we love being with people. And a good example is when we were going through COVID, and COVID was really tough for us. All of our clients are event organisers, and we kind of went from, we were doing an event with Google, and Google cancelled the event, and we were oh, that seems a bit rash. But then we thought, well, Google probably knows the real deal here. And then within 12 weeks, we'd lost about 95% of our revenues. We just were, had no idea what was happening. And there was this whole bubble that came up about virtual events, and it's a $65 billion industry and all this stuff. I mean, we did virtual cycle tours around Norway. We did all this virtual stuff. And it's really, really died away. And I think that just shows that we need that face-to-face interaction. We need to kind of see each other and understand each other. And we get so much energy from people. So I think you've got to give a more compelling reason for people to get together. But we've, the virtual event side of things just kind of came away as soon as we could do it in person.
It just never quite... It didn't really work.
I think there's a place for great content that's, an hour or, an hour with a kind of chat afterwards or questions or whatever it is. But just people are too distracted by all the pings and all the stuff on their machines. And our clients really tried, and we came up with loads of creative stuff, but there just wasn't a way to do it that fully replaced in person out with. Now, if you can do something summarised and quite compact, I did one recently that was actually very good, but you're in a fight for attention, and a whole day online just is too difficult.
Yeah. And I guess as we kind of move through this, how do you, one of the topics obviously we talk about a lot here is the topic of money, and how do you guys, and it's difficult because it is quite still bizarrely a taboo subject, and even amongst family members and couples, it's quite a difficult thing to talk about. Now, so you guys work together, obviously live together and have kids together. How do you have that conversation when it comes to you personally, away from the business balance sheet and all that kind of chat?
So I think because we started the business so early on, we had a joint bank account from when we were like very, very young, and definitely before we were married. So when we were just living together, and just all of our money just went into the one place, and there wasn't very much of it then. And then so we just kind of, that was quite natural. My parents always had a joint bank account, so I suppose you do model some of what happens financially in your parents, and all of our money just went in the same place, and still that's what we do. And I think Craig will be more like in charge of, like, he would book holidays, or like he'll buy clothes like for the kids, and probably even for me sometimes. Like, he's got much better taste than me, so he'll kind of spend whatever we need to spend, and I don't even think about that really. And then he'll do more of the investing as well, so he'll invest. He kind of knows what's going on from like shares point of view, and he's really good at like new to invest in Nvidia. I'd never heard of Nvidia. He'll do all the cryptocurrency, does all of that stuff. So I suppose maybe he's got more ownership of the finances, and I just trust it's all that it's all absolutely.
And is there a plan there though, do you think?
So a plan? Oh yeah, I mean, we've got pensions and investments and different ways that I suppose we try to stabilise, because when you're running a business together and all of your assets and all of your income's coming from the one place, and we don't have investors and we don't have debt, which all sounds good, but actually you're kind of playing all in poker. And there's, maybe you get to a stage where you think, okay, we should de-risk some of this, and there's different ways that we'd look at doing that. So probably we're getting to a stage now that, we think, should we take some investment and, grow the business and do something else? So, and then, there's a likelihood that you go through some sort of exit event as well, which changes the picture financially. But, I think we're still working out exactly what we do there.
Yeah. I mean, that's it, once you start, it's fine when it's you two. You add kids into the mix and all the other things. We often, unfortunately, in our job, we often talk about what the worst possible scenarios, because that's kind of the job, and it always, you think about, right, okay, who's left behind and what's going to happen to them.
We're actually doing our will tomorrow.
Are you?
Happy days. Which our mortgage advisor's been pushing us, like, have you done a will yet? We're like, no, we'll get around to it. So we're doing that tomorrow. But and I think the first time, you hire somebody, you think, oh, their salary is more important than ours, and everybody's salary is more important than ours. So, I think there is an understanding there. But having gone through COVID, you realise, who knows, anything could be taken away. AI is changing our business pretty quickly. So we're planning for that. But I think we've always, probably going after growth, reinvesting in the business. But, there gets a stage we think better for the long term.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. You can invest in your business and get that growth, and you've had obviously huge success. And there comes a point where you have to kind of think about you and be a wee bit selfish, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. And there's maybe different ways that we'll start, but we just haven't probably thought too much, because we're always like chasing the next bit of growth. What do we do next? How do we expand? How do we build the team? Where do we go next? And a lot of that we've reinvested in the business. And probably if we'd taken money earlier, we could have grown faster. But then, you lose part of your autonomy with doing that, and it's, making sure you really get the right investors in. So I think we're getting to an inflection point now that we need to start thinking about something else.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point that you know, sometimes people go too early. Again, we're the benefit of our job is we get to see all sorts. We've seen every version of this kind of conversation, you know, and you know, you've got to a point now, and maybe it does get a bit more serious given the numbers that you're talking about. You're thinking, right, okay, well, maybe we do need to think about securing our future no matter what.
Yeah.
Because there's a freedom in doing that, of course, as well, isn't there?
Yeah.
Because now you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, and I think we've always been very intrinsically motivated, so I don't think if, you know, you had a bit more financial security that anything would change necessarily. But I think that can be a fear sometimes with investors, that you're just going to go and lie on the beach for so it's enough money to not be up at night, but not too much that you're not coming back into work on a Monday morning.
I can't be bothered. And something I meant to ask you earlier, what's the kind of why that keeps you going, that intrinsic, that drive to grow and grow and grow? What is it? Where are you, you know, where does that go? And what does that kind of deliver for you in the end? Yeah,
I think I've always been motivated myself. I didn't need somebody else maybe telling me what to do, and creating something out of nothing is just so exciting to me, and still is. And I love that we can, when we're a small business, like, we're really agile, because like we can come up with an idea. We've built a new kind of chatbot AI product thing recently, which is saving us loads of time. It's working really well. We're like, we can take that to market, sell it to our clients, and that's just something that's been made up. That was our CTO that did that, wasn't me that did it. But it's so exciting to come up with an idea and go like do something with it, and then out of that you might create 10 jobs. And I think that's hugely rewarding for me, is to see our team come up through the business. We had a few people celebrating their 5-year anniversary, which was lovely, and them really growing and, you know, getting their first homes and their first cars and leading teams and doing all of that themselves. So I think building something out of nothing and then seeing the impact that can have on people's lives is would always keep me going. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Laura. Thanks. Is there anything else? I mean, where can people find you? You mentioned when we were chatting earlier about your own podcast as well. Maybe people can go and follow that. We have our own podcast. It's called Tag Lab. So that's on Spotify and all the other major outlets. And best place to find me, I would say, is LinkedIn. I'm a just total LinkedIn geek and on it a lot. My Instagram isn't very exciting. So just get me Laura Davidson on LinkedIn. Lovely. Thank you very much, Laura. Thanks for having me.